What's up, guys? I know I haven't posted a video in a while, and I felt like this particular video was kind of important for me to do. So I just got back from a run because I really had to make sure that I got these two shoes correct, at least how I feel, how they feel underfoot, and so on and so forth. So I'm gonna kind of give you a quick rundown here of the Puma Velocity Nitro 2. Shoe just came out on the market versus the Puma Velocity Nitro 1. What are the differences? Did they really make the improvements? All those things will be coming up here in just a second. But before we get into it, guys, if you haven't done so already, please click the subscribe button below if you haven't done so already. On this channel, I try to give you a perspective of what some of these shoes are like from a larger runner standpoint. I do weigh over 200 pounds. I'm about 220 pounds. And I've done half marathon distances, 10Ks, a bunch of races, so on and so forth. And some of the different techniques and things that I've learned along the way to help me out as a larger runner. I've never been a runner in my life. I was never a professional runner. It's just something that I picked up a number of years ago. I wasn't a runner in high school or college or anything. It was just, like I said, it was something that I picked up a number of years ago to help me lose weight and get in shape, and it's become a passion of mine, much like cars, which, by the way, we also discuss car topics. I do have some things, some really exciting stuff actually coming up that we're going to do to the WRX. So if you're in for it for the cars, by all means, please, again, click that subscribe button. Also click that bell for notifications when new content drops. And if you like this video, at the end of it, please click the like button and share it with your running buddies when you feel that this is necessary for them. So there's a couple of things I kind of want to get into with these two shoes. I've got the Velocity Nitro 1 in my hand. This was actually one of my favorite shoes for last year. It's a daily trainer, neutral daily trainer running shoe. This is kind of Puma's first attempt at making a staple running shoe daily trainer, kind of like going after a shoe like the Nike Pegasus, which is kind of like the definition of a daily trainer running shoe. And really, Puma did a very good job. Again, this is one of my favorite shoes from last year. Has a really nice energy return to it, but it's also a very smooth ride. It's everything that you would really want in a daily trainer shoe. It's got a really comfortable upper that's fairly breathable, really nice lockdown over the midfoot, nice padding around the heel collar, good heel cup where you lock down really well. And surprisingly enough, it's a pretty stable shoe. It doesn't have the highest stack height out of all of the running shoes, and your stack height is the amount of midsole foam that is underneath your foot. So out of daily trainers, it really doesn't have the highest stack height out of a lot of daily trainers that are out there, but it performed really well. But this year, they came out with a new version, kind of like running shoes do just about every year. So they came out with this, which is the Puma Velocity Nitro 2. Now, by the way, I do want to mention that these shoes were purchased with my own money. These are my own thoughts, and these are just my concessions of the shoes. So some of you that run in these shoes may not exactly feel the same way, but as a heavier runner, these are some of the things that I did notice about the two shoes. Also, somebody that has just been running in a lot of shoes for the past couple of years, some of the things that I've noticed, especially the differences between this shoe and the previous version. So this one definitely has a higher stack height to it. It's a different upper material. Definitely feels like a better quality upper material. So I'm just gonna get into the Velocity Nitro 2 because if you wanna see a video on the Velocity Nitro, the first version, the CoolAdapt version, I will put a link in the description below so you can watch that video. So we're just gonna jump into the Velocity Nitro 2. So they have done a complete redesign of the shoe. It is not at all like the first version. It definitely has a completely different upper here, which uses a different type of material. It doesn't feel as kind of plasticky, you know, when you're touching it with your hands. but it is a really nice mesh material. It is fairly breathable. Out of my daily trainers, I'd put it right in the middle of the row, where some of my daily trainers, and I'm going to throw the Nike Pegasus out there, is kind of warm, where I find the Asics Nova Blast, which is one of my favorite daily trainers, is a lot more breathable. This is kind of in between the two of those. It's not too warm, it's not too cool. It just kind of fits right in that particular area. It does have a gusseted tongue. It's very, very lightly padded over the top of your foot. And yeah, it's very lightly padded. It just kind of lays on top of your foot really well. The laces are nice and thick laces, so they don't feel like they're cutting into your feet at all, which is also a very nice thing. And much like the first one, you do get some really nice padding around your heel and your ankle area, which is really nice. Does have a fairly, you know, I won't say it's like a tank heel counter here, but it's nice. It has flexibility to it, so you don't have to worry about your ankle getting, or your Achilles tendon getting all beat up because of the heel counter here. Overall, the upper is really nice, but let me throw this one out there. It is, you can see, now by the way, this shoe only has about 10-12 miles on it, so it's an initial kind of impression on this shoe, but I can definitely feel a difference between these two shoes. I'm going to get to that here in just a little bit, but you can definitely see that this is a kind of a very floppy upper compared to a lot of other shoes that are out there on the market, but it does, like I said, it does do fairly well. The midsole foam here, you've got Nitro midsole foam, which is their kind of their proprietary nitrogen infused midsole foam, supercritical foam that they use on a lot of their running shoes, and you have that sitting on top of what is right here, which is Pro Foam Light, which is an EVA. It's a little bit firmer midsole foam that goes underneath, and it's kind of a carrier foam from the toe all the way through to the heel, and you have a little bit more just before your heel area underneath your foot. You do actually feel that underneath your foot. I will get into that more here in a second. And basically what this EVA is there to do is to kind of absorb the initial impacts on the road, kind of dampens the force of what you feel on the road. So you land on that Nitro midsole foam, which is really nice and compressive, but a lot of energy return out of it. And that EVA is really there to just absorb the impacts, absorb the shock underneath your foot to keep you running. Underneath, you've got Puma Grip rubber underneath, which is just fantastic. I love Puma Grip rubber. You never have to worry about traction. It pretty much grips in just about any condition out there, whether it's wet, gravel, dry pavement, you name it. I mean, this stuff is absolutely amazing. I loved it in the first version, loved it in the DV8 Nitros, love it in this shoe. It is just a fantastic, fantastic outsole rubber. Probably one of the best in the business, to be completely honest with you. It's extremely durable. It's gonna last you a long time. You're gonna get a lot of miles out of this. Really fantastic kind of shoe. Now, some of the specs that are on this shoe, you got 23.5 millimeters of stack height in the forefoot. You got 32.5 millimeters in the heel for a 9 millimeter drop, which is the same as the first version. The first version was also a 9 millimeter drop. But there's also a lot of differences between the two. This actually has about 3 millimeters higher stack height than the first version. So you do get a little bit more of that midsole foam underneath. Of course, you also have that Pro Foam Light, which really is probably what makes the difference, because you can see underneath the forefoot right here is that Pro Foam Light. If you took that layer out, it'd probably be about the same stack height as the first version. So yeah, that's kind of the basic gist of it. Now, here's my initial impression of the shoe. Did they really make this shoe better? And I think that's really debatable, because there's a couple of things that I noticed on this shoe that's missing from the first version. So I'm gonna take the first version right here and kind of show you some things that are missing from this shoe. Now, the first thing that I noticed is the upper. The upper compared to the version, the upper on the version 2 compared to the version 1, I'm not gonna lie, I like the fitment of the version 1 better. There's a couple of reasons here, and I'm actually glad that I have this CoolAdapt version because this is probably the most important part of this entire video. So after this, you can click out and say, okay, cool, whatever. But you can kind of see it in the video, but underneath the layer of mesh right here is a band. There's a band that goes right here. You might be able to see it. You can usually see it a little bit more on the medial side. You'll see it right here, okay? On the lateral side, it's a little bit wider, but it goes from the base of the shoe, the strobel board, all the way up to the eyelet chain right here. And you have it a little one on the inside, you have a little one on the outside, and this actually provides a little bit better lockdown over your midfoot. It just kind of helps creates like a cradle that wraps around your foot. Now this is a gusseted tongue as well, but you have the gusseted tongue plus you have those bands over the midfoot, and that just wraps and locks your foot down so nicely that you feel so secure in this shoe. It feels like it becomes attached to your foot, and it's not like it cuts into your foot or anything. It just makes the shoe like mold to your foot, like it melts to your foot, that you never feel like this shoe wants to come off your foot. That is something that is missing from the version 2. The version 2, I have looked in here, there is no outer band right here on either side. You can see how flappy that is. There is no outer band that wraps over your midfoot. This is solely relying on the gusseted tongue to create that comfortable lockdown. Now there also isn't any reinforced overlays over the outside of the foot. So shoes that you would usually have that type of structure, like say the Asics Nova Blast, where it has the Asics logo that actually creates like a reinforcement on the outside of the shoe to help with that lockdown, you don't have that here. This is literally just screen printed onto the fabric itself. So the lockdown on this shoe, I do not feel is as good as the first one. Now that doesn't mean that your heel is slipping out of the heel cup, because that's not what I'm getting. It just doesn't feel like it's a part of your foot. It doesn't feel like it's attached itself to your foot to where you're at one with the shoe. That's what I'm trying to get at here. That's probably my biggest complaint about this. I also feel like the toe box in this one is a little bit more accommodating than this one. These are both US men's 10, size 10. And I feel like the version 1 has a little bit more accommodating toe box. It feels like it's a little bit wider here, where this one actually feels like it's a little bit narrower, but it's a little bit longer in the toe area. So it's almost like, I don't know how to describe it, but it's like one is a little bit more pointed. I don't know if you can see that on camera, but I actually can see it. This one's a little bit more pointed, this one's a little bit more rounded. That's very interesting now that I'm seeing that. So yeah, I mean, the tongues are very similar as far as the light padding. It just lays on top of your foot. But I feel like the toe box in this is a little bit more accommodating, and the bands that they have on the outside, the lateral side and the medial side of the version 1, definitely make the shoe lock to your foot a little bit better. It just makes it feel a little bit more secure. Again, not that I didn't have a problem with heel slippage in this shoe. I'm not having any issues with that, but it's just something that you notice, like it just doesn't feel like it's attached to your foot like the first version is. So that's my first, I guess, qualm about this shoe, is it's missing that element to it that I actually really loved about this version of the shoe, and they took it away in this one. Now let's go on to the midsole, because that's another area that's kind of weird, that I kind of have some things that I miss on this one that aren't on this version. So you do get a little bit more stack height out of this, which is really nice. I mean, I do like a little bit more foam underneath my feet. I like the comfort a little bit more, but there are a few things that I just don't really like about this midsole, and it actually has to do with some of the like stability, I guess. Now, what made this shoe unique was you did have some Pro Foam Light, like you do in the second version. You got Pro Foam Light in the heel, but also you can't really see it very well, but it's actually a core that kind of runs up the center to the midfoot right about here, okay? And it actually notches off just on the inside, about a ½ inch on each side, or maybe like 1.5 centimeters on each side. So you've got nitro foam on the outside, but you got this Pro Foam Light core on the inside. Now up in the toe box, it is just nitro foam. There is no Pro Foam Light underneath it. There's nothing. It is just nitro foam. There were some problems with it, but I actually enjoyed it. A lot of runners that ran in the shoe felt like they were kind of bottoming out, particularly if you were a heavier runner. Now, did it bottom out? I'm sure it did. I'm sure it's bottomed out with me running in this shoe. But the amount of energy return that came out of it, it didn't feel like it bottomed out and then stayed dead. It had an immediate return to its shape, which is something that I really enjoyed because it had that kind of pop to it, but you also got some ground feel to go with it. So I really kind of enjoyed that because I felt like the toe off on this shoe was just really, really nice. Now this shoe has about 60, 70 miles in the shoe. So it does have some wear and tear on it, obviously, but overall, I really enjoyed the toe off on this shoe that I just don't feel with the second version. And I know it's because you've got that Pro Foam Light underneath the forefoot, and that's there to help absorb some of those impacts. So I just don't feel like it has the same toe off that the version 1 had, but there's also a little bit of other things here too. The other thing is stability. The version 1 had this little plate in the back here. It wasn't intrusive on your heel. It actually was kind of a horseshoe shaped clip. There's a little plastic clip that's right here on the back. And what this did, sandwiched in between here, was to create stability. So as you landed, because it's sandwiched in that midsole foam, you wouldn't move one side or another. It would kind of help keep your foot straight and then move you forward, okay? Having that Pro Foam Light also helped with the stability of the shoe if you were a heel striker or a midfoot striker. So that also helped as well with stability. Also, the shoe, I'm not gonna say it's a rigid shoe, but it's flexible, but you gotta put some effort into it. And especially in that like it flexes in the toe area, not so much in the midfoot, right? You can see it's flexing in the toe, not so much in the midfoot area, right? So here's some things about the version 2. It does not have that clip. It's also a higher stack height shoe. So there is a little bit of instability here. So it feels, in my opinion, very much like the Nova Blast 2, which is more stable than the Nova Blast 1, but it's not exactly a stable shoe. It's still got some wiggle wobbling to it. This kind of has that same feel in the heel. As you land, you kind of get a little bit of rock back and forth. If you pronate, this shoe is probably going to pronate pretty bad for you. I'm not a pronator, but I am showing some creasing already where you would pronate. So that's something that I noticed about this shoe is with the lack of that clip in the sandwich in between the midsole, it doesn't have the most stable ride, especially when you're landing, say, in that mid to heel area. It just doesn't have that super stable ride. There's also another thing here. It's a flexi boy, okay? So it doesn't have the most rigid ride compared to the first version. Also, and I didn't do this in this one, so I'm gonna do this real quick. I'm gonna do the twist test here, okay? It's twisting, but I'm having to put some effort into it, okay? I mean, I'm having to put some effort into it. It's twisting, but not much. This shoe. I mean, I'm putting pretty much the same effort in, and look how much that's twisting. It's not exactly the most stable ride for a daily trainer running shoe. In fact, hold on a second. I'm gonna bring out the Nova Blast 2 for this one because I just feel like it's absolutely necessary. So this is the Nova Blast 2. You can see it right here. Okay, I'm gonna do the twist test on the Nova Blast 2. Okay, I'm having to put some effort into it. This is twisting a lot more than the Nova Blast 2. Okay. Also, the Nova Blast 2, again, I mean, so, and just for the heck of it, Nike Pegasus 38, okay? This one actually twists pretty good, okay? See? Actually, wow, this doesn't even twist as much as the Velocity. Wow, wow, okay. So, it still twists. It twists more than the Nova Blast and the version 1. But, wow, okay. And then, oh yeah, see, it's in the toe, not so much the midfoot. Wow, okay. So now you see a couple of daily trainers here. So, did they really improve this shoe? I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna put more miles in it because this is a shoe that does kind of excite me. It's light for a daily trainer. Out of the three that I've just shown, the other three that I've just shown, I feel like this is the lightest one, even though it's got more stack height than the original. It feels lighter. It's a shoe that excites me, but my initial impressions are, I really don't know if they made this better. They're definitely using better materials. It definitely improved the stats and features of the shoe, but I just don't know if this is a better running shoe than the first version. So I'll take it to 50 miles. I'll give you my full review in the future. Again, click the bell for notifications if this is something that interests you. Yeah, so that's just my honest take on this shoe. I know a lot of shoe tubers have been putting up some really awesome videos saying how great this shoe is, and I really don't know if it's really better than this shoe. I had to do back-to-back runs just to make sure that I had all my stuff right, and I kind of still would reach for this shoe, and I'm just not, right now, I'm just not 100% sure on this one. So thank you guys for watching. I know it went longer than I thought it was going to. I got a little passionate there, so please bear with me. And again, if you're interested in some of the car stuff coming up, please click that subscribe button below and click the bell for notifications. Also give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. So thank you so much for watching, and as always guys, enjoy the run.